everyone, it's Hayes, and in today's video, of course, we have to talk about Zoe. I'm so excited, that's it, that's the whole plot of this video. I don't care about the rest of the plot of Green Diaper, absolutely not. Like, who the Akuma villain is, I don't care. Like, people get akumatized in every single episode, you're not special. Honestly, the only thing I care about so far for this episode is Zoe, and I am so excited to find out more. So let's review what we know for certain. So Zoe grew up largely in New York, it would seem, and at school she only had one friend who was likely Jess from the New York special, even though Jess and Aeon are friends. Aeon obviously didn't like Zoe. Alright, Aeon. Towards the start of season 4, Zoe moved to Paris for reasons we're not totally 100% sure of. At the time, though, she tells Marinette she was being bullied, people put bugs in her locker. However, contrary to that information, at the end of Daddy Cop we are introduced to Ray, who has stalked Zoe all the way from New York because he's obviously got nothing better to do, what a weirdo. And he kind of alludes that Zoe was actually the bully. Now, he doesn't go into detail here, but we see this video thumbnail, and just from the thumbnail alone, it certainly does not paint Zoe in the best light. But again, we have yet to see this video, so it could be something else entirely. Like, is it evidence of Zoe being the bully? Did she bully Ray? Did Zoe and Ray work together to bully other people? Or was Ray just one of Zoe's bullies and he did something that meant she got excluded from school? There could be a lot of possibilities here, but that's what I'm saying. I'm not entirely sure why she ended up leaving New York. Maybe she told Marinette the truth. Maybe she didn't. I'm not entirely sure right now. And then now, of course, we know the figure from the end of Sleeping Siren was Zoe, and Zoe, who knows these three boys bullied Ondine and were a large part in why she got akumatized, takes it upon herself to presumably attack them, but maybe she just has a stern talking to them, I don't know. The episode ends before we could see what she actually does. And now, in the Grand Diaper trailers, we see Zoe, who is yet again in the trailer the subject of Ray's bullying, transform into Fury. Absolute confirmation is Zoe, although I still have people denying it in the comments section yesterday. I don't know what it is with this fandom. You are presented with indisputable evidence of something is true, and still like 5% of you will go, yeah, no, I don't believe it. Okay. I mean, I've known all along. I said in my, I think it was my Sleeping Siren analysis, I thought it was Zoe at the time, so I'm not particularly surprised. I was fairly certain then. A lot of people thought it was going to be Lila, but I was like, why would Lila be mad at them when they helped someone get akumatized? Like, that's what she wants, so... Anyway, so that's what we know for certain. So now we bring around the actual question. Why has Zoe decided to do this? So I do think this episode might answer a lot of these questions. So like I said in my trailer analysis yesterday, I think the start of this episode could be a bit of a flashback where we have Zoe hugging Andre and they're like, oh my god, Paris is a nice place now my daughter Chloe isn't here and I've adopted my stepdaughter. Andre, like, we're not here to talk about what Andre did to his actual biological daughter, but really Andre. But anyway, so Zoe goes to school, like, it seems like she's really looking forward to it, she hugs her friends, she is happy, it's like it's going to be totally different, the school's different, my sister's gone, it's going to be great. But then she sees Ray, and then I think at that point he'll perhaps corner her by the bathroom, like we see at the end of Daddy Cop, and basically his harassment of Zoe and the other students, and just basically builds from there. And on top of what Ray is doing to Zoe, I don't think he's going to approach her very much, but just, you know, being there, someone who knows something about her past, whatever that actual information is, you know, it's just going to play a lot on Zoe's mind. And there seem like other incidents that seem to be affecting her. For example, there's the boy on the bus who's being quite rude. Zoe goes to get off the bus, someone in a wheelchair is approaching the bus, but the bus seems to leave before that person is able to get on. Zoe then also reports Ray and his friends to Mr. Damocles, and Mr. Damocles does talk to them, but it very much seems like Ray's dad was a bit like Andre was, where it doesn't matter what Ray does because his dad's just gonna be like, yeah, well, whatever, I don't care. So Zoe, I think, is possibly seeing all of these injustices around her, all affecting different people, but no one is really doing anything to combat them, to make them right. So she basically takes it upon herself and she becomes Fury using pollen. So I'm assuming happens is basically a lot like what Adrian does in Kuroneko. He decides to try and give himself a different outfit by changing his personality, trying to force a personality change. You see him and Plag practicing in the episode, and Zoe does the same here with pollen. She channels that anger and becomes Fury instead of being Vesperia, who comes across, in my opinion, as much nicer. So it seems, Vesperia is very much a superhero, where I would personally, from what we've seen so far, describe Fury as a vigilante. Now, a vigilante can be defined as a member of a self-appointed group of citizens who undertake law enforcement in the community without legal authority, typically because illegal agencies are thought to be inadequate. So it's definitely, in my opinion, very Batman-esque, Spider-Man-esque. Obviously, it would depend on how you view this person, your opinion on them. To the police, Batman and Spider-Man are usually menaces, unless they are helping them. But the people, like the general public, largely like the two of them, unless they're criminals. So I'm sure you can think of other superheroes who kind of fit into that vigilante dynamic. Ladybug and Cat Noir, in my opinion, don't. They had a bit of that going on in Origins, where Roger was like, yeah, can you two just please leave? But once they proved to be really effective, he seems to kind of like them. They don't really get chased by the police the same way Batman and Spider-Man do. So personally, I wouldn't describe Ladybug and Cat Noir as vigilantes to me, not with the way they are presented. So Zoe seems to be doing this because she is doing what's right, or rather, what Zoe perceives to be right. And a common question I was getting in the comments yesterday is Zoe a villain? And in my opinion, I'm not sure. I want to say no, but I'm not entirely sure, and it definitely could maybe change to a yes, depending on what happens in tomorrow's episode. So one reason why I'm a little bit unsure is because I'm like, why can't she do this as Vesperia? Ladybug has told them all that, like, hey, don't come to an Akuma fight unless I call you, but otherwise, she has told them you can still help Parisians as you see fit. We saw it in the opening of The Illustrator with Alia and Nino transforming so they could sort the thing out on the bus or the tram, whatever it was, with the road. We saw it in Sabrina and Daddy Cop. There's loads of instances this season when we see the heroes just helping out, not fighting Akuma villains, they are just helping people out. So Zoe is allowed to help people if she thinks the occasion calls for a superhero. So why has she become Fury? And the only reason I can think of why she's doing it as Fury and not as Vesperia is because she is violent, basically. If you look up the definition of the word fury, it says wild or violent anger, or extreme strength or violence in an action or a natural phenomenon. I really struggle saying that word. So that's why I possibly think she's not doing it as Vesperia. Vesperia is someone who is meant to be nice and kind and helpful, whereas Zoe in this form, she doesn't want to be nice and kind and helpful. She wants to right some wrongs, and she doesn't care how that happens, how she's going to do it, you know what I mean? Because, like, I get where she's coming from, because I really don't think if, Zoe transformed into Vesperia and went to talk to Ray about his behaviour, I don't really think Ray would listen. That's not to say, like, he deserves being beaten up by Zoe or whatever, absolutely not. But some people don't listen to that. So I can understand Zoe's line of thinking here. So does Zoe as Fury perhaps use violence to right what she perceives as wrong? Does she actually, at the end of Sleeping Siren, hurt Ray, Nelson and Loic? Like, given the definition of the name she's going by and why she's not doing it as Vesperia, I feel like she actually could be using violence, which is why I'm on the fence about whether or not she truly is a villain or not. So I suppose it's up to you and what you perceive her to be, and also what she's going to do in tomorrow's episode, whether or not you think she's a villain. I want to say no, but just given the definition of her name, I'm not sure. Honestly, just as a general plot point, I don't mind. I think this is going to be really, really interesting. But again, feel free to make up your own mind. So her goal, again, I would assume it's to stop bad things from happening. Again, whatever she perceives as bad from happening. A bit like how the council are like, oh, we have this perfect world plan. But what do they actually mean by perfect world? Because obviously everyone's definition of that is going to be very, very different. However, of course, the ramifications from all of this, Ladybug, she's going to hear about this eventually. For example, as we saw in the trailer, there was the tram driver, who, there was no dialogue, but he didn't seem to be doing anything wrong. He could have been slating Max and telling him he was stupid for all I know, but I don't actually know. We didn't hear anything. I don't know what he did. Was Zoe perhaps saving him? Maybe, but honestly that doesn't really seem her goal as Fury. If she came in as Vesperia, I'd be like, yeah, sure, go for it. But she wasn't there as Vesperia. She was there in a different capacity. And also Max was there. He's going to have seen this. He's probably going to be a bit like, well, that's weird. So I would assume Max is going to tell Ladybug at some point, hey, I saw this. It was a bit weird. Maybe we should find out who this other hero this other person is. I don't think it'll be in this episode. I think there's perhaps too much going on with Zoe in this episode, but I think, at some point it could happen. And I also feel like we should also ask the question, could Zoe in this form be corrupted by Lila? I want to say no because I do perceive by and large Zoe to be a good person. However, we haven't really seen someone use a Miraculous like this before. And yes, don't get me wrong, again, Adrian Kuroneko, but Adrian in that episode was doing it for a very, very, very different reason to what Zoe is doing here. So could Zoe using Miraculous in this way damage her mentally in some way and make her more susceptible to whatever Lila wants? I guess it's a possibility, but it's hard to say since, again, we haven't really seen this before in the show. But anyway, that's just what I think, and honestly, I was kind of going into it at the start of this week, like, it'll be a fine episode, it'll be fun, it'll be nice. But I'm really excited for it now. So let us know what you all think, besties, and I will see you in the next one.